The secret messages hidden in medieval paintings. In the Middle Ages, paintings were not created merely to be admired. They were tools of communication in a world where most people could not read. Behind layers of gold leaf, religious imagery, and carefully chosen symbols, medieval artists hid messages meant to instruct, warn, glorify, or sometimes quietly criticize power. To the modern eye, these works may look purely devotional, but to medieval viewers, they spoke a secret visual language. These hidden messages were not myths or conspiracy theories. They were deliberate, culturally understood symbols rooted in theology, politics, and social order. A world that spoke in symbols. Between roughly 500 and 1400 CE, literacy in Europe was limited largely to clergy and elites. Art, therefore, became a visual language. Churches, monasteries, and royal courts used paintings to communicate complex ideas to the masses. Medieval artists followed strict symbolic rules. Every color, gesture, object, and placement carried meaning. Nothing was accidental. A lamb did not simply represent an animal, it symbolized Christ. A skull meant death and mortality. A broken column symbolized the fall of paganism. These symbols allowed paintings to function like coded texts. Hidden theology in plain sight. Religious paintings dominated medieval art, and many contained deep theological messages invisible to untrained eyes. In depictions of Christ and the Virgin Mary, Christ is often shown slightly larger than surrounding figures, signaling divine authority. Mary's blue cloak was not a stylistic choice. It symbolized purity and heavenly grace, using expensive lapis lazuli pigment to emphasize her importance. Hand gestures were also carefully chosen. A raised right hand with two fingers extended represented Christ's dual nature, both human and divine. 3 fingers symbolized the Holy Trinity. Even the placement of halos mattered. A cross-shaped halo was reserved only for Christ, while saints had plain circular ones. To medieval viewers, this distinction was instantly recognizable. Political messages hidden in art. Medieval paintings often served political purposes, especially when commissioned by kings, popes, or wealthy patrons. Rulers frequently inserted themselves into religious scenes. In donor portraits, a king might appear kneeling beside saints, signaling that his authority came directly from God. This was visual propaganda, reinforcing the idea of divine right to rule. In some cases, artists subtly criticized power. In certain late medieval manuscripts, corrupt church officials were depicted with exaggerated features, large noses, greedy hands, or animal-like expressions. These details communicated moral warnings without openly challenging authority. One famous example appears in Giotto's frescoes in Padua in the early 13th century, where virtues and vices are personified. Figures representing greed, envy, or corruption wear distorted faces, reminding viewers that moral decay leads to spiritual ruin. Animals as secret codes. Animals were among the most powerful symbolic tools in medieval art. Lions symbolized Christ's resurrection and royal authority. Dogs represented loyalty and faithfulness. Snakes symbolized sin, deception, and Satan. Owls often represented darkness or spiritual blindness. In some paintings, animals appear in unexpected places, peeking from corners or hidden behind figures. These were not decorative. They acted as moral commentary on the scene. For example, a dog near a married couple signified fidelity, while a monkey, often symbolizing human foolishness, could signal moral weakness or temptation. Hidden warnings about death. Medieval society lived under constant threat of famine, disease, and war. This reality deeply shaped art. Paintings often contained memento mori, reminders of death. Skulls, wilting flowers, extinguished candles, or hourglasses quietly warned viewers that life was temporary and judgment inevitable. One striking tradition was the danse macabre, Dance of the Dead, depicted in murals and manuscripts. Skeletons lead kings, priests, and peasants alike toward the grave, sending a powerful message: death spares no one. These images were meant to humble the powerful and comfort the poor, reinforcing medieval beliefs about equality in death. Hidden messages for the educated elite. Some medieval paintings contained layered meanings only educated viewers could understand. Latin inscriptions were sometimes abbreviated or hidden within architectural details. Biblical references were encoded through specific visual arrangements. Numbers, geometry, and symmetry played important roles. For instance, the number 3 symbolized divine perfection, while 7 represented spiritual completeness. Painters arranged figures accordingly, turning compositions into theological diagrams. In illuminated manuscripts, marginal illustrations, called marginalia, sometimes contained humorous, satirical, or even rebellious imagery. Knights fighting snails or monks behaving badly served as subtle commentary on human folly. Why these messages were hidden? Artists did not hide messages out of fear, but out of necessity. Medieval culture valued tradition, authority, and hierarchy. Open criticism of church or state could be dangerous. Visual symbolism allowed artists to communicate complex or controversial ideas while remaining within accepted boundaries. Art became a safe space for layered meaning, a way to teach, persuade, warn, and remember. Decoding the medieval mind. Today, historians, art scholars, and theologians continue to decode these hidden messages. What once seemed decorative now reveals deep insight into medieval fears, hopes, beliefs, and power structures. Medieval paintings were not silent. They spoke, just not in words. They told stories of faith and fear, of authority and resistance, of life, death, and eternity. To those who understood the code, these artworks were never just images. They were messages, hidden in plain sight.